So today I'll be taking a look at a scenario where the Dutch won the Great European War in Adizz Pro's Wicso in episode 99. Now in the last video like this, we saw what would have happened if the Dutch lost, but in this video, the second part, we'll see what would have happened and kind of my predictions on what would happen if the Dutch win this war. So let's waste no time and get straight into this video. So the same way the war started in Adizz's Wicso is the same way how it will start in this episode, with the Diamond Alliance and the Square Alliances going to war because of the Dutch being very expansionist and declaring war on Denmark. So with this we'll see the war continue to play out similar enough. As the Dutch forces start to advance into Norway, into their southern Swedish parts, but this time they more so target the coast of Norway, as this is also where their capital is, and the Norwegian capital is a primary goal of the Dutch. But they also don't forget about these parts more in southern Sweden, taking these islands and having a successful battle at the island with the big Norwegian fortress in here, managing to defeat them, as now they start to advance over in here. But it is here that the Norwegians are doing a bit better, and they manage to push the Dutch back quite a bit, and this is the front for now between Norway and the Dutch. Now the Dutch will wait for no special invite to invade Germany, as this is one of their primary goals, as they immediately go ahead and invade through Germany, so that from here they can get a border with Poland and from there invade them. And also they were looking forward towards annexing the Germans, so this is the perfect opportunity to do so, as they quickly take the German capital, and from here Germany falls over to the Dutch Empire. And using the recently annexed German territories plus this little Norwegian island, they start to make bombardments in the Polish capital, and quickly the Dutch go ahead and take the said capital, and from here start to heavily push into Poland, as Poland is one of the strongest, if not the strongest nation in this alliance and in this war. So because of this they will immediately go and try to take them out of the war. But now going over to Russia, these guys are gonna cook something up, and this is a plan together with the Dutch to tag Team Estonia out of existence and cut off the Polish coast, so that, well, Poland will pretty much be forced into surrender. So with this, the Russian forces will immediately wait for no special invite and go straight into Estonia, take their capital, and from here proceed to totally decimate them and kick them out of this war. And immediately they also send some troops through Poland and also attempt to do their plan where they cut the Polish from the coast. But Poland immediately catches on to Russia's plan and immediately starts to push over into these parts, which kind of forces Russia to instead attempt to invade over here regularly through the east. Now unfortunately for the Dutch, the occupation of the Polish capital will be quite short-lived, as Poland goes and retakes this, but Poland is still pretty much screwed because of them fighting on two fronts. But now, similar to the last video, we'll see the Eastern Russians joining this war on the side of the Square Alliance for pretty much the same reason as in the historical timeline and as in the last video, as they want to go and pretty much destroy Russia and take back all of their lands. Seems easy enough, but the Eastern Russians are up against the Western Russians, if you wanna call it that, and these guys are way stronger. But immediately, as Russia is focused more on Poland and Estonia, the Eastern Russians will get the advantage, and they decide to use this advantage trying to go for the Russian capital. But similar to how Poland ended up losing in the war with Russia together with Crimea because they failed to take the Russian capital, a similar way will happen over in here with the Eastern Russians, with the Western Russians going over in here. They don't really rescue these northern parts in here Then that's because they are way more focused on destroying the Eastern Russians in their core territory. Now Eastern Russia will get the Poland treatment, as now Russia is starting to advance into their territory, which is far from ideal for them, and because of this the Eastern Russians will be kind of screwed. Immediately they will kind of be forced to retreat all of their forces from Russia over in here in order to save their country, as they also use these troops to push back against the Russians, but the damage has already pretty much been done. Now, exactly like in the last episode, we'll see Eastern Rome and even the Sicilian country. Both of these will now join the Square Alliance against the Dutch, but the difference compared to the last video is that now these guys no longer unite into the old Rome, so this might affect them in a way or another. And oh well, this decision does really affect both of these countries, as now we see the Italian Union rebelling away from Eastern Rome and the Sicily country. And the Italian Union was a country for a very long time, but in the recent times, most especially in World War II, they got defeated, which led to their union being broken apart, and later the two host nations of the union were re-annexed by Rome. But then in World War V, Rome collapsed and went extinct, and that led to the two Italian Union nations coming back and becoming very strong. And then they were invaded by Eastern Rome and Sicily. But now when these two countries join this war against the Dutch Empire supplies an Italian Union rebellion over in here, which does very great against both of these countries and manages to push them back quite a lot. And now we'll see a country joining the Diamonds for once, and this is gonna be none other than Orange Bulgaria. Now Orange Bulgaria has had its set of troubles with Rome, and because of this, now they see this as the perfect opportunity to jump them and retake all of their land. And immediately, together with Greek help, we'll see the Orange Bulgarian forces send their troops over in here, starting to retake land and take this. This is about it so far, as then immediately we see Rome send a couple defensive forces and manage to push them back around here, but the damage is pretty much already done, as the IU becoming back over in here in the Italian peninsula, and the Orange Bulgarians in here are quite a struggle for Eastern Rome. And now over in Norway, we'll see that Sweden will rebel away from Norway, and this is again because of the Dutch and them supplying these rebellions, and they even make a bargain deal together with Sweden where they basically say, yeah, we're gonna give you all of this land that we have captured from Norway except Copenhagen, because we do want that, in exchange for you joining the war on our side. And Sweden will gladly accept, as they immediately start to send their newly reinforced armies through Norwegian territory. And at this point, Norway has been in the war for a very long time, and they are kinda starting to lose morale. Norway has been in the war since the beginning, and they've lost a lot of manpower and resources across this war, and because of this their population is in very low support of this war. So because of this, we'll see the Norway leaving the war and leave the Square Alliance. But now going over to the Italian peninsula, something similar to Norway will happen over to Sicily, and they will be also leaving the Square Alliance and will be leaving this war due to a lack of faith. Now in order for the Square Alliance to save itself and to not completely die off, they will get help from Iberia Unitaria, which will join this war, but compared to the last video they will not get nearly as much support or help from the rest of the Unitarian countries. Now we did see Africa Unitaria not being helped by the other Unitarian countries during the Great African War, so something similar will happen to Iberia Unitaria in the Great European War, as we see them pretty much get booted out of the Star Alliance, and this will be far from ideal for them. Now Russia, seeing Finland over in here alone, will quickly decide to go straight into Finland and take as much land as possible as they go through these territories and quickly go and take their capital. And from here we'll see that Finland will surrender over to the Russians, thus ending the war in the Scandinavians. And over here in the Eastern Russian Union, we see that the Yellow Russian country, which had existed over in here previously back in the times of the HRE and World War IV, this country will now rebel away from the Eastern Russian Union, hoping to re-establish their separate, alone country, not in the union with the Dark Cyan Russians. And because of this, they'll quickly go ahead through these territories and occupy them, and this will pretty much mark the end of the Eastern Russian Union, as now we also see the Russians sending their forces over here through the east of Eastern Russia, and once they get up to here, we see that also Eastern Russia will surrender due to a lack of faith. Now going to one of the last countries in this war, Poland. Poland will pretty much get the IRL World War II treatment, as the Dutch will come from here from the west and push east, taking a lot of Polish territories that were actually once Dutch and pretty much decimate Poland over into here, moving up to their Latvian parts and taking this. And here from the east, the Russians will come and pretty much sweep through the rest of the Latvian, Belarusian and Ukrainian parts, and with this we see Poland also capitulating and being partitioned between the Dutch Empire and the Russian Empire. Eastern Rome, not wanting to die once again, will decide to peacefully exit this war, so with this they manage to leave. And for the final country in this war, it's also the last that has joined, and this is Iberia Unitaria. Now one of, if not the strongest country in this war, they will still suffer quite a bad fate, as we'll see the Green French forces immediately go into here and take the Catalonian parts, as this is one of their less defended territories, and immediately go and occupy the Balearic Islands. And then Green French forces with pretty much all of the other forces of the Diamond Alliance, including Dutch forces and Russian forces, this will all come together over into Green France and start to push over into Iberian Unitarian territory, proceeding to totally decimate them. And now for one of the final parts of this war, we'll see Andalusia breaking away from Iberia Unitaria, as now Iberia Unitaria is starting to fail and the people of Andalusia realize that maybe this union was far from the best idea, so because of this they rebel away. And from here, after a couple more pushes, we see the Iberian Unitarians capitulate over to Green France. And with this, Iberia Unitaria is gone, and with this the entire Square Alliance is gone. With this, the Dutch, the Russians and the Green French, or for shorter, the entire Diamond Alliance, had won the war, and the Diamond Alliance had defeated the Squares. So we can now take a look at this very big peace treaty. And wow, well, this is the peace treaty, and we're gonna break it down real quick. Now starting from the east, we see that the Russian Union is broken apart as the yellow country gets released. Going over to Russia, Russia is now very big as they fully annex Estonia and take back the core of Poland, and also take back their old Russian Empire territories from Finland, and the rest of Finland is allowed to leave. Now going over to Eastern Rome, they have lost a huge amount of territory. First of all, Orange Bulgaria retakes all of their territories from Eastern Rome. Eastern Rome is forced to release the Italian Union, which we'll talk about in a second, and also needs to cede over back the territories from the Farmers Union that they have taken in World War V. And now coming over to the Italian Union, we see that the Italian Union gets released as now the territories, the Italian peninsula territories of Eastern Rome and Sicily will get formed into the Italian Union once again. And now to the elephant in the room. The Dutch have taken a lot of land. They have fully annexed Denmark, they have fully annexed Germany, and they have taken all of their former territories from Poland over in here, and also had even taken Copenhagen from Norway. Speaking of Norway, they are forced to release Sweden. And finally, into Iberia Unitaria, we see that Green France manages to retake all of their former territories over in here and annexes the territories of Catalonia, including the Balearic Islands. And for the rest of Iberia Unitaria, they are forced to release Andalusia, and the rest is allowed to leave. And that'll do it for today's video, and that'll do it for this War and Peace Treaty. And this is also the end of this kind of mini series of who could win in the Great European War in Adizz's Wicso in episode 99. And I really hope these videos do well, and I hope that you guys like them, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.